Solo Sikoa is no longer in possession of the Ulafala, and of course, that means he's no longer the tribal chief. That title belongs to the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns, who defeated Solo in tribal combats on the WWE Raw on Netflix debut on Monday. And I think with that, Solo Sikoa's fate has been sealed with the Bloodline, and WWE, as usual, has seemingly dropped some hints as to why that is the case. And one in particular I thought stood out as I'm watching Tribal Combat on Monday. There was a scene in that match that I've seen before. It was deja vu. And unfortunately for Solo Sikoa, that's not good because it means that his future with the Bloodline is about to get a little bit interesting. Because we know, if we look at the way this whole thing is played out, right? Go all the way back to 2020. Roman Reigns comes back. He aligns with Paul Heyman. The tribal chief, Roman Reigns, is here. He becomes this new big phenomenon in WWE, and the Bloodline takes center stage, right? It becomes the biggest story, and all the long-term storytelling that they've done with this group since then, right? I mean, it's really been all about the different little wrinkles and the different little stories and the relationships between all these people who are hungry for power, right? Whether it's Roman Reigns, whether it's Solo Sikoa, whether it's someone else, everyone who's kind of been intertwined in the story, they've had different relationships. Some people have had different motivations than the others, but it has been Roman and Solo who have been the central figures in terms of the power struggle, right? Solo creates his new version of the Bloodline after Roman Reigns loses at WrestleMania 40. Why did he do that? Well, because Solo said losing has consequences. That's been a main theme, right? If you lose and you're a member of the Bloodline, it's going to have consequences, especially when it comes to big matches. And when you look at all the different matches that Solo Sikoa has been involved in over the past several months, right? Go all the way back to SummerSlam, where Roman Reigns makes his return. Solo comes up short there. Go to that SmackDown on USA Network debut, the Steel Cage match against Cody, the chance to get that championship back. Solo comes up short there. The tag team match, Bad Blood, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, which has set off a chain of events that has infiltrated the entire WWE when it comes to the frustrations with all these different people and how they've seen Cody team up with Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens has been set off by it. Other people have been set off by the domino effect from there. But Solo comes up short again. And we've seen this trend time and time again. And now, when it comes to the biggest match of all, the one that determines who wears the Ulafala, Solo Sikoa has come up short once again. And so, losing in those actions are going to have consequences. But what exactly did they tell us in that match on Tribal Combat? Because that's where the focus needs to be right now. Because when I watched Tribal Combat, there was a scene I saw in this match that I thought was very interesting. And it was this one, right? Where Jacob Fatu, who is the hired mercenary of Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu every single morning gets up, and the first thing he thinks about is he loves Solo Sikoa. It's a great man to think that the first thing he does when he gets out of bed is think about Solo Sikoa and how much he loves him. But when he saw this right here, Jacob Fatu had an interesting reaction. Why? Because Jacob Fatu got in the ring, he took out Roman Reigns, and you're thinking, okay, this is it, because this was Jacob Fatu's role that he was hired for, right? To keep Solo Sikoa in power. That's why Solo brought him in. That's why he brought in the mercenaries, Jacob Fatu and the Tongans. It was to help keep him in power, to fight off Roman Reigns and anyone else who wanted to try to take back that Ulafala from Solo Sikoa. So Jacob Fatu here doing his job and thinking that, all right, I'm going to help Solo retain this Ulafala. I'm going to put this thing around his neck, and we continue on as this new rogue version of the Bloodline, right? But Solo couldn't get it done here. Reigns kicks out, and the match continues. And what happens? Well, eventually, Roman Reigns defeats Solo Sikoa. But you're asking, why am I so focused on this particular visual right here? And Jacob Fatu's reaction as Solo thinks he has the match won, but Roman kicks out again, right? Well, because it reminds me of something that, again, I've seen before, and I saw it not too long ago. And it's kind of the thing that set in motion everything that's happened with the story of the Bloodline. Go all the way back to WrestleMania 40. Oh, it's a little bit of a smaller image here, but you guys get the point. We talked about this before, right? There were frustrations between Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns during that match at WrestleMania 40. And this is the same type of visual, where Solo gets in the ring, he helps Roman Reigns, And Solo thinks that, all right, this is it. Roman is going to win the match because I've helped him, and now he can finally put away his nemesis, Cody Rhodes, right? Well, what happened? You had the same type of thing where this is Solo's reaction after Roman covers Cody Rhodes and Cody kicks out at 2. It's the similar idea, right? It's the same. You still have the same sort of parties in the ring, and you have the similar reaction. Jacob Fatu, stunned, not thrilled seemingly, with the idea that this match is not yet over on Monday in Tribal Combat. Solo Sikoa, surprised, not thrilled that Roman Reigns couldn't beat Cody Rhodes here in this particular moment because Solo had done everything he could do, right, to help Roman Reigns retain this championship. Jacob Fatu did everything he could do to help Roman Reigns, or to help Solo Sikoa defeat Roman Reigns. And so, is this going to play out in the exact same way? That's the question we have to ask ourselves, right? Because if actions have consequences, and I look at this, and I see Jacob Fatu in the Solo Sikoa role that Solo was in this spot back at WrestleMania 40, I've got to think we're getting closer and closer to now being in the position where Roman Reigns lost all that power at WrestleMania 40, and now Solo Sikoa is about to lose all that power after Tribal Combat. How are the mercenaries that he's brought in, how are they going to react to what has just happened and him losing the power for their version of the Bloodline, right? What they see as the future of the Bloodline. Just, again, guys who are willing to do anything and everything for the power and to keep the power within their family. Solo has let that slip away now. It's gone back to Roman Reigns. And now this is Roman's Bloodline. And so what does that mean? Well, again, there's a lot of different people that we now have to figure out how they're going to factor in to this story moving forward, right? Whether it is The Rock, whether it is Jacob Fatu making a big decision here and no longer loving Solo Sikoa. Jacob Fatu may get up in the morning and think about The Rock first. He may think about someone else first, right? These are all options, I think, as we get into this thing moving forward. But you can tell right there, it's the same sort of setup. They didn't put that there for nothing, I don't think. I think it's the same sort of thing that they want to point us towards, in that it's a very similar moment in the history for Solo Sikoa, right? It was his big moment at WrestleMania 40 where he's getting frustration with Roman Reigns and all that. He's so frustrated by Roman not being able to put away Cody. And Solo is in the ring trying to help him. He's doing it himself. He's doing everything he can. And now Jacob Fatu tried to do the same thing on Monday in Tribal Combat, and yet Solo found himself in the Roman Reigns role from WrestleMania 40 where he couldn't get the job done. And now it's not just Roman Reigns losing a match at WrestleMania 40. It's Solo losing a string of matches that have been very important and have given him and his version of the Bloodline, Jacob Fatu and the Tongans, an opportunity to bring that championship back to the Bloodline. He came up short every single time. He came up short every time that they tried to vanquish Roman Reigns and everything he was trying to do to restore order in the Bloodline. And now that Ulafala is back around Roman Reigns' neck, and that's not good for Solo Sikoa. Because, as we said in the previous video, where we're talking about the potential of a Roman Reigns and The Rock feud at some point down the line for even more of the power with the Bloodline, right? You've got the Tribal Chief who's back. You've got The Rock embracing his High Chief role. All these things. But where does that leave Solo now? Well, I think it leaves him in this position right here. The visual, again, go all the way back to when this thing first started between Solo and Jacob Fatu and the trademark hug that we always talk about now with the Bloodline. I think this is what Solo's next move is going to be. You're going to have a similar scenario here. Perhaps we get the hug between Jacob Fatu and Solo, whenever that is, and that is when we see perhaps the big turn for Jacob Fatu on Solo Sikoa. When will it happen? We don't know, but again, they're setting it up, they're teasing us. It's all there. Everything. The past history, the same type visuals, these sequences are all the same now. It's just Solo finds himself in the role now where the person who had all the power is about to be set up for a downfall. And unfortunately, that person is going to be Solo Sikoa. What does it mean for his future? What does it mean for Jacob Fatu's future? Is The Rock playing a hand in this somewhere? These are all questions that have to be answered as we move forward with the Bloodline saga. Many more questions still to come when it comes to all these different people. Roman Reigns is now the tribal chief. What's The Rock going to do? What's Solo going to do? What's Jacob Fatu going to do? That's just what WWE is doing so well. There are more questions than answers right now, and we'll find out what it means. But I think that Solo Sikoa's future with the Bloodline, his fate has been sealed for the former tribal chief, Solo Sikoa. You guys let me know what you think about what's going to happen with Solo Sikoa. How do you see this thing playing out with Jacob Fatu and the Tongans? Do you think they're going to turn on Solo very soon? How do you see this playing out? What's the next chapter for Solo Sikoa and this version of the Bloodline? Is it as simple as The Rock coming back at some point down the line and being the mastermind and being kind of the new leader of this version? How do you see it playing out? You guys let me know in the comments. Always enjoy your feedback. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on your way out. And let me know your thoughts on what's next for Solo Sikoa and the rogue version of the Bloodline.